crypto exchange platform FTX has collapsed. In the span of a week, the man behind FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, went from a power player in the crypto space to a villain who lost most of his fortune and then plunged his company into bankruptcy and is now the target of a Securities and Exchange Commission and DOJ investigation. But Bankman-Fried isn't losing any sleep. In fact, he told the New York Times in a recent interview, quote, "You would have thought that I'd be getting no sleep right now. And instead, I'm getting some. It could be worse." Now, there is an ongoing investigation. I want to be clear about that. We don't know exactly whether the accusations that have been thrown in his direction are accurate or have merit. But it looks like he might have done some pretty shady things with money that was invested into FTX to buy crypto. Okay, so let me give you the details on how this all worked out. The empire built by Bankman-Fried collapsed last week after a run on deposits left his crypto exchange, FTX, with an $8 billion shortfall, forcing the firm to file for bankruptcy. He also stepped down as CEO. He is no longer the CEO of FTX. And there is some suspicion regarding whether Bankman-Fried used billions of dollars in customer funds to prop up a trading firm, a hedge fund that he had founded that also, by the way, served as a massive conflict of interest. So Alameda is the hedge fund that we're talking about here, had accumulated a large margin position on FTX, essentially meaning it had borrowed funds from the exchange, Bankman-Fried said. "It was substantially larger than I had thought it was," he said. And in fact, the downside risk was very significant. He said the size of the position was in the billions of dollars, but declined to provide further details. So we got to back up a little bit to kind of break that down and understand what's going on here, okay? So keep in mind there are two companies at play. There's the crypto exchange platform known as FTX, and then there's Alameda, which is the hedge fund, okay? Now, the relationship between Alameda and FTX was the root of Bankman-Fried's downfall. He founded the trading firm in 2017 and rented offices in Berkeley, California, not far from where he had grown up as the son of Stanford law professors. Soon the company made millions of dollars exploiting inefficiencies in the Bitcoin market. Okay. Now in 2019, Bankman-Fried, so 2 years later, he relocated the company to Hong Kong for an obvious reason, a friendlier regulatory environment. He moved with a small band of traders, including Caroline Ellison, a former trader at the financial firm Jane Street, and went on to start FTX, a marketplace for crypto investors to buy, sell, and store digital assets. Now, at this point, what's happening is basically, Alameda is taking money from FTX, which by the way, if they were both based here in the United States, that would be illegal. There are regulations against it. But right now, Bankman-Fried's living in the Bahamas. They had moved one of these companies to Hong Kong. And the reason why they did it is because they wanted to create a situation in which Alameda, the hedge fund, could literally take deposit money from FTX and do all this risky investment with it.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out so well for them.
Okay, so first hint that things are about to head in a unsavory direction is when they move offshore. So Hong Kong, Bahamas, etc. means I'm about to break the law and I don't want to be subject to US jurisdiction when I do. Secondly, they're gonna have to investigate and they're gonna have to prove their case. But if he really took money from FTX and then betted in Alameda, that would appear to be highly illegal. And so that's basically taking other people's money and gambling with it, by the way, taking massive risk, and then later saying, "Oh, I didn't know this risk that I took in the billions of dollars was risky, that risky." Yeah. Okay, so he can gamble with his own money, but he can't gamble with your money. And if he did that, he should spend approximately a couple of 100 years in jail. So we'll see if they have the goods on proving that, and if they could actually catch him and bring him to justice. But right now, he seems to be laughing his ass off, going, ha ha, so what? I'm not even losing any sleep over it. I'm gonna get to what a terrible person he is in politics in a second.
Yeah, he is a terrible person. And so the New York Times reports that the exchange, meaning FTX, lent Alameda as much as $10 billion.
Look, you deal with these guys at your own risk. Yeah, I know there's a whole bunch of bros who are like, oh, Bitcoin, I got this, I figured it out.
Democracy.
FTX, Dogecoin, etc. No, man, the professionals have already gone in and they've already set up very efficient robberies. Every sucker that goes in there without any regulations, you know what regulations are? They're laws. It's a different word for a law. Without any laws to protect you, you should rush in and cross your fingers that the guy's not gonna move to the Bahamas and take all your money and bet it so that he makes the profit and you don't. So it is more complicated than that, but the bottom line is he ain't here. He's in the Bahamas. And he's basically going, ha ha, if anybody was stupid enough to trust me, they deserve the fate that was coming. And you think the guys who haven't been caught aren't thinking the same exact thing as you're pouring your hard-earned money into this crap, okay?
Yeah, but Cenk, it's great because crypto isn't regulated, so.
Oh yeah, that's working out great, guys.
Yeah.
You libertarians, you nailed it again.
So I wanna get to the whole regulation part because he tried to buy politicians to keep crypto unregulated, and there's a point to that. Before I get to that though, I want to go to graphic 8 here, because this excerpt from a New York Times piece today, I think perfectly explains what happened here. Alameda had taken out loans and used the money to make venture capital investments among other expenditures. Around the time the crypto market crashed this spring, Ellison, remember that's the woman we referred to earlier, she's now managing this hedge fund. Ellison explained lenders moved to recall those loans. The person familiar with the meeting said, but the funds that Alameda had spent were no longer easily available, so the company used FTX customer funds to make the payments.
Disaster.
And by the way, I was watching a CNBC video on this today. And the analysts are like, well, why are they talking to the press? They need to stop talking to the press because they're making all these admissions here.
It's hilarious because the analysts are in the press.
I know.
And they're like, remember, you should only talk to us because we're the corrupt press. You shouldn't be talking to free press. Free press will actually print things that are true. Yeah. Won't do propaganda for you. Are you nuts? That could get you in trouble. Our job is to protect you at CNBC and other parts of corporate douchebaggery press.
Now, final wrinkle to this story that's so fascinating. So this guy, Bankman-Fried, is obsessed with keeping crypto deregulated, right? And so he spent a lot of money during the midterm elections on buying politicians, namely Democratic politicians, okay? In fact, he was the second largest donor to Democrats during the midterm elections, and he was only second to George Soros.
Okay, and this is when most articles that I have read make it seem like, oh, they're losing a good guy Democratic donor. No, there's nothing good guy about him. So number one, he didn't go in there with good intent like, oh, we've got to protect democracy. No, he's against democracy. He's like, no, I'm purchasing you Democrats because the Republicans are already in our back pocket. There's no way they're gonna regulate us. They're corrupt by nature.
Yep.
But you guys, I have to actually do cash payments for. Nancy Pelosi, heel. Chuck Schumer, heel. I give you money and you do corruption. He was one of the worst guys out there. And what did he do? He spent most of it in primaries. It didn't even fight Republicans. It fought progressives who would actually regulate him to protect against exactly what just happened here. Instead, he gave to corrupt Democrats like Shontel Brown against Nina Turner, who's now on this network. So
either way, look, the chickens came home to roost. That's the whole reason why I brought it up, okay? Because he tried to buy politicians, but as he's buying politicians, he's smack talking the head of Binance, which is another crypto platform, right? And that ended up really hurting him because he needed this guy to buy FTX, to basically bail him out. So let me give you that context real quick. So in Washington, Bankman-Fried was pushing an ambitious regulatory agenda, meaning deregulation, while speaking critically of Changpeng Zhao, the chief executive of the rival exchange Binance, who eventually mobilized his extensive Twitter following to set off the run on FTX, right? So Changpeng Zhao hears about how he's being criticized, insulted, whatever, by Bankman-Fried as he's lobbying in Washington for deregulation. Zhao is not happy about that. And so he had planned to buy FTX. A former investor in FTX, Zhao still owned a large amount of FTT, a cryptocurrency that FTX invented to facilitate trading on its platform. On November 6th, Zhao announced on Twitter that he was selling the FTT, spooking customers who rushed to withdraw their FTX deposits. And at that point, the company's failing, and he's like, maybe I'll buy FTX, which would be a bailout. But then he hears word that Bankman-Fried was insulting him and decided, maybe I won't, right? And then he also looked into the financials and noticed that there were all sorts of issues with the financials. He hasn't been too detailed about what he found, but I'm sure we'll find out through this FTC investigation.
Guys, all these guys pretend to be geniuses, and it's marketing hype. Don't fall for it. Because the whole point is, trust me, I'm so smart. If you give me your money, I'm going to double it. No, if you give me your money, I'm going to steal it is the far more accurate description here. And look at what he did. He messed with the largest owner of the FTTs, and he didn't think through, what if this guy pulls out? What happens to FTX, and then what happens to my hedge fund? Not thinking that through is incredibly stupid, and that's what Bankman-Fried is. He's a dumbass. By the way, he's a child.
He's 30.
Look at they think they're so smart. Drop the guy. You remember you guys this old school graphic? Drop the elbow on him. Love it. It's back. Okay, so off he goes. FTX is totally collapsed. He doesn't have any more money to give to corrupt Democrats. Good riddance. By the way, American prosecutors, for God's sake, do your job. If he broke the law, punish him to the maximum degree. And there's a slight chance that it'll happen in this case because some of the people he stole from are rich. So now justice might come get him.